Deep down, we all possess a secret, often unknowingly perpetuated lie that sabotages our most precious relationships, drives us further into destructive habits, and even manipulates the choices we make. But it's often masked by a seemingly benevolent facade. This self-deception begins with an innate desire for relief and escapism, often manifesting as avoidance or rationalization of painful truths. We've all seen it in ourselves when, despite knowing better, we justify staying in a toxic relationship or justify one more sip of that drink just one more time because deep down we're terrified to face the reality of our situation. Through this series, we'll delve into the hidden patterns of self-deception that fuel addiction and toxic relationships, and uncover the unspoken narratives that hold us hostage to the very patterns we desperately want to break free from. Self-deception is the most elusive of enemies for our true selves, often hiding in plain sight as we desperately cling to false narratives that shield us from the darkest corners of our own insecurities. When we say we're not addicted to someone or something, we often mean not addicted yet, as we dance around the edge of a precipice, trying to convince ourselves we're in control, but we're merely searching for validation from that very same source. The pursuit of escape is a hallmark of self-deception, as we become increasingly drawn to toxic relationships or addictive behaviors that temporarily numb our feelings of inadequacy, but perpetuate a cycle of codependency and harm. At its core, self-deception is an attempt to deflect from our deepest fears by externalizing our vulnerabilities, convincing ourselves that we're the ones being deceived, rather than the one perpetuating the lie. In reality, our deepest attractions often lie not in the other person, but in the emotional validation they provide, a validation that our egos so desperately crave, yet are too insecure to find within ourselves. True freedom from addiction and toxic relationships begins with the willingness to confront those hidden narratives, to acknowledge the self-deceit that has led us down this path, and to finally begin the arduous process of rebuilding from the ground up, rather than patching over the cracks with temporary escapes. When we lie to ourselves, it's not just about rationalizing our addictive behavior, but about masking the underlying insecurities driving it, the nagging voice that whispers, "I'm not enough." We often tell ourselves that our addiction is about escapism. But the truth is, it's a desperate attempt to fill the void of unresolved attachment issues, the longing for unconditional love we never received as children. People often justify their toxic relationships by convincing themselves they are worth the pain, that their partner somehow validates them in ways others cannot, but what they are really doing is sacrificing their own self-worth to appease a deep-seated need for validation. Our ego convinces us that we're in control, that our addiction is a mere coping mechanism, but the truth is, it's a vicious cycle of craving and denial, with us at the mercy of our own desires. When we're drawn to someone we know is bad for us, it's not just about attraction to their charisma or good looks, it's about the fear of being alone, the fear of losing ourselves in the familiar darkness of our own insecurities. The lie we tell ourselves is that our addiction is a personal choice. But the truth is, it's a coping mechanism born from a desperate attempt to silence the voice of self-doubt that's been whispering in our ear since childhood, telling us we're not good enough. When we deceive ourselves, it's not just about the initial lies we tell, but the intricate web of self-justification that forms around them, protecting our egos from the harsh truth. Notice how often you seek validation from others, not because you genuinely crave their approval, but because it's a desperate attempt to fill the void left by your own internalized self-doubt. The real reason we attract certain people into our lives isn't because of their impressive qualities, but because they reflect our deepest insecurities back at us, providing us with a twisted sense of comfort. We're less concerned with genuinely understanding ourselves than with being understood, and this desire for empathy is what drives us to form toxic relationships, where the other person serves as a mirror to our own fragile sense of self. When we're invested in a relationship that's holding us back, It's not just about the other person's behavior, but about our own inability to recognize our own patterns of self-sabotage and the fear of growth that comes with admitting we're wrong. The biggest lie we tell ourselves is that our addiction is somehow separate from us, when in fact, it's a desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable, to fill the void left by our own lack of self-awareness and self-acceptance. You see, in toxic relationships, it's not just the other person's behavior that's problematic, but also how we allow it to reflect our own self-deception, hiding beneath the surface, convincing ourselves that this is what we truly want. By choosing to stay in a relationship that's ultimately unhealthy for us, we give in to our deepest insecurities, our need for validation and control, rather than taking a hard look at our own limitations and weaknesses. What we're really attracted to in these toxic partners is often not their positive qualities, but our own unresolved issues, and the temporary high that comes from feeding our ego, from having someone cater to our every need, no matter how destructive that might be. At its core, self-deception is a coping mechanism that protects us from feelings of inadequacy and fear of abandonment. It's a way to temporarily silence the voice of our conscience, to escape the discomfort of facing our true desires and fears. But in doing so, we risk losing ourselves in the process, sacrificing our own sense of self-worth and dignity on the altar of our own self-deception. We're often the mirror to our own toxic relationships, holding up a reflection that's distorted by our own needs, our own vulnerabilities and fears. And yet, it's only by examining that reflection, by confronting the lies we tell ourselves, that we can begin to break free from the cycle of self-deception that's fueling our addiction to these toxic relationships. You may think you're seeking love, but more often than not, it's a desperate attempt to fill the void of our own unworthiness. When we tell ourselves we're okay with where we are in life, the truth is, we're just trying to mask the crippling fear of being alone. The reason we're attracted to toxic relationships isn't love, but rather the twisted illusion of control it gives us over our own insecurities. We're so caught up in seeking validation from others that we've forgotten how to hear our own inner voice, and that's the voice that truly needs to be validated. To admit defeat is to accept that we're not perfect, and yet, it's in that imperfectness that we find true strength and resilience, a strength we'd rather try to cover up with self-deception. By embracing the pain of our own self-deception, we open ourselves up to the possibility of transformation, which is often more terrifying than it is liberating. As we come to the end of this hard-hitting exploration, I want to leave you with a thought: acknowledging our self-deception is just the first step towards breaking free from the cycle of addiction and toxic relationships. Take a moment to reflect on how you might be unwittingly perpetuating these patterns in your own life. It's time to shine a light on the hidden lies that hold you back. Hit that like button. If this resonated with you, share your observations in the comments below, and if you're hungry for more insights into human psychology, be sure to subscribe for some real talk.